Rumors have been swirling for a couple months now that Silver Surfer is getting his own project in the MCU in the form of a special presentation on Disney+. Of course, similar to what we saw with Werewolf by Night and the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, this is also rumored for Nova in the MCU as well. So Silver Surfer, we've been hearing multiple sources re-reporting on this news. So I say at this point, obviously it's not confirmed, but I'd say it sounds pretty reliable to believe that this is going to be the case. And this is something that I'm really excited about because I love the Silver Surfer. He's one of my favorite Marvel heroes. And today we were talking about the Silver Surfer and more specifically Galactus, but Silver Surfer, of course, is involved here as well. So we're talking about a brand new report from, again, the Marvel Studios spoilers subreddit, another Tales from the Mod Queue. So this is coming from unverified sources of the moderators. So there's a chance that this is true, but there's also a chance that this is not true. It has not been officially verified, so we're kind of going in blind with this, take a little bit of a gamble to be talking about this, but it just sounds so awesome that I want to talk about it. So basically, it is being said here that we are getting indeed a Silver Surfer special presentation on Disney+. And this will be an origin story for Norrin Radd, aka the Silver Surfer in the MCU, which is exactly what I want out of this. Now, this will show some of the other heralds of Galactus, which is another great thing, kind of essential to that story, which is something I'm really excited to see. Maybe get some MCU live-action Terract, get some Firelord up in there. Morg would be pretty awesome. Frankie Ray Nova. Like, there's a lot of potential when it comes to Heralds of Galactus because there are so many. And I can just not imagine what it's going to be like seeing them in live action. I'm just really excited for that. Now, this project, like I said, is also going to feature Galactus himself. And this will supposedly show justification behind Galactus's motivations. Because, I mean, Galactus has always been, this big, huge, evil, villainous presence, but at the same time, he's kind of silly because his whole thing is that he's eating planets just to survive. So honestly, I feel like he has pretty justified reasonings and motivations on his own. Like, he's literally just trying to survive. Like, he has to eat the planets. That's his only source of nutrition. But again, it is kind of a little bit silly. So they're going to really dive deep into his story as well, which I think makes sense because if you're going to do, you can't really do like a Galactus solo project, but if you want to dive into his story, do it in a Silver Surfer project because those two characters go hand in hand and you can't do one without the other really. Now, for Galactus though, he's going to be having some pretty interesting ties to the Celestials, who of course we were introduced to in the Eternals. We got a previous appearance of, well, at least the head of Nowhere in Guardians of the Galaxy, but now we actually got to see the Celestials in action for the Eternals movie, and they're definitely forces to be reckoned with here. Their whole relationship with the Eternals, they're some pretty bad guys, and especially with how Eternals ended, they're clearly being set up for a huge presence going forward in the MCU. And supposedly, in this version of Galactus, he either dislikes or has a rivalry with the Celestials. So we will, at least according to this, be seeing Galactus in the next Eternals project alongside the Celestials, which I think is awesome because when Eternals was coming out, like as you can see right here, a lot of people were looking at the Celestials and making fan art and saying how like that could literally be the MCU's version of Galactus, just, with horns. And I don't want him to look like this. I still want him to have, like, a human-looking face. But it is really interesting that we will, again, at least according to this, be having a connection between Galactus and the Celestials. And like I said, according to this, we will be seeing Galactus in the next Eternals project, which we still don't even know when or if this is happening because it hasn't been officially announced if we're getting an Eternals 2, and if we do, if it's even going to be a movie, maybe it'll be a Disney Plus series, but basically everything we have heard about this project, we know that all the cast is interested in returning, but the main thing we've been hearing is that it will be different. So I don't know if Chloe Zhao is coming back, but from what we've heard, it's going to be focusing less on the Eternals themselves and more on the Celestials, which honestly, great. Also, Harry Styles, Eros, aka Star Fox, will be taking on a bigger role as well. So this honestly sounds great. I actually personally really enjoyed Eternals, so I'm really excited to see more of those characters going forward in the future of the MCU. But just this whole idea of seeing Galactus versus the Celestials, like it literally says right here, and I quote, "There will likely be a Celestial versus Galactus battle." That sounds awesome, because again, like, they're a similar size, so it makes sense. And then probably the most interesting part here, which I think really ties things together for Galactus coming in the MCU and really kind of explains his hatred for the Celestials, is because supposedly Galactus gets his energy from eating the Celestials growing in host planets. So that right there is pretty crazy, because that was one of the big biggest, most shocking reveals of the Eternals movie, is that we literally have a Celestial growing inside our planet. And now, even after the movie's over, we have part of a Celestial just poking up out of the ocean somewhere on Earth, which is pretty crazy. But that whole explanation of, like, these Celestials are growing within planets, I think this makes a lot of sense and kind of adds more to Galactus' story, instead of it just being like, oh, he's just eating planets and it's just like very kind of in general, like, oh, just the planets give him energy and nutrition. But it's more specifically the Celestials that give him energy and are able to sustain him and his body. I think that really adds a lot of nice deep levels and layers to this. Yes, it's making things more complicated, but I think the more developed it is, it makes it sound less silly. Because, I mean, Galactus is a character that a lot of people don't know about. Like, sure, he's one of the biggest Marvel villains, but for, like, the general audience, like, people never heard of Thanos before Infinity War, and, you know, some of these bigger characters like that, a lot of people don't know who Galactus is. So when like, you know, Galactus is coming to the next upcoming movie, and people are telling them about it, they're like, oh, who's Galactus? Well, he's this really big guy that eats planets. Who is going to take him seriously? But when you explain it in this way, where it's like he's eating planets because he is taking the energy from the Celestials that are growing within the planets, I think that just makes a whole lot of sense. And I just really like that would be possibly an explanation for Galactus' motivation. I mean, it mentioned before with Silver Surfer's project that would dive into his motivations, and I think this makes complete and total sense. So Galactus is coming to the MCU. Again, guys, we don't know for sure whether this is true or not. This is coming from an unverified source, but I definitely really hope that it is, because this sounds awesome. Again, Galactus, great villain. I cannot wait to see him in the MCU. It might be, I mean, it's going to be kind of crazy and, you know, overstuffed a bit if we're doing Galactus at the same time as having, you know, Kang the Conqueror and Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars and doing all that stuff, plus mutants are going to be coming. How are we even going to have time for Galactus? But I think this makes sense that, you know, we've all been talking about, oh, Galactus will be the villain, like the big bad villain of a phase, or like one of the upcoming Avengers movies, probably after Secret Wars. But what if they could possibly do it on a smaller scale? Because, I mean, you look at the big phase-ending movies with Infinity War and Endgame, Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, those are all bigger than Earth. And I feel like Galactus is more specific to Earth. Like, Endgame involved the universe and time travel. Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, that's going to be the whole entire multiverse. I mean, Galactus, again, he's a big villain because he's trying to eat the planet, but that's just one planet in one universe. So this is something that could be done as a smaller, maybe sure, an Avengers movie, but I'd say more likely a smaller Avengers movie on the scale of like the first Avengers movie or possibly Age of Ultron. And you know, setting him up in the Silver Surfer project, I think makes complete and total sense. Maybe honestly just have him be the villain of a Fantastic Four movie. That is actually a pretty huge rumor going around, that Galactus will be the main villain of this first Fantastic Four movie, and that kind of corroborates with reports that this Silver Surfer special presentation will be released just a few short months before that. So we could be getting Galactus not only in the MCU, but extremely soon, within the next 2 years, we could get the whole entire Galactus storyline told within the Silver Surfer special presentation in this first Fantastic Four movie, which would be absolutely insane, and it's kind of just blowing my mind that this is a thing. Galactus is going to be in the MCU, but the fact that it's happening so soon is both concerning, because it's like, oh, are they really rushing this? But at the same time, it is awesome, because I cannot wait to see this. I mean, we know Marvel Studios, they're going to do better than the cloud that we got in Fantastic Four, The Rise of the Silver Surfer. It's going to be way better than that. I cannot wait to see what he looks like. I can't wait to see who they get to do the voice and all that stuff. It's going to be great. I'm excited for Silver Surfer. I'm excited for Galactus. I'm excited to see more Eternals and the Celestials. Galactus is going to be great. But for now, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about all this? Do you trust this source? Do you believe this information? Do you want it to be true? And what do you think about Galactus coming to the MCU? So anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep it up to date on everything that goes on in the Marvel life.